when you walk out of this office, like you need to start figuring out what you're going to do with the rest of your life, because you're going to get medically separated or medically retired this year, and like you're never going to deploy again, and your job here is done.
It sucks. It does not feel good.
The guys around me and my team kind of helped me to realize that like I needed to start focusing on what's next, because like that first day that I got pulled, a lot of guys from my team came and found me, and they're like, no way, like we can't believe this is happening.
That's harsh.
Obviously I was like a fish out of water. I started freaking out, like trying to figure out what I was going to do, but I was having a lot of pain, and my movement and stuff wasn't great, and so I couldn't do a lot of the things on land that I could do before, but I could do a lot in the water.
When you get put out of the military, especially from special operations, you can feel like you're losing the best version of yourself. Prime Hall, welcome Security Halt podcast. How's it going, brother?
Going great. Thanks for having me, bro.
Dude, absolutely. You are everywhere, man. You're doing amazing things, whether it's learning how to or teaching others how to become Aquaman in pools, and bringing veterans to healing, dude. You are touching a lot of the things that I like to talk about, man. But like I found out on this journey, those of us that are out there hitting the road, trying to help others, have journeys and stories of adversity and pain. And today, man, I want to dive into that journey of yours, figure out how you found yourself not only facing your toughest obstacles, but where you found the teachings and methodologies to overcome and to heal.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the one thing, like, I want to make sure that I share, if you could remind me towards the end, just about some of the lessons learned from getting out. That's kind of,
Yes. Oh yeah, that's a big thing that we like to talk about is our
yeah,
transition, man.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, growing up, I grew up in South Texas. I had, um, I guess, I didn't know at the time, but a kind of a different type of childhood where I was on my own a lot, and was kind of raised myself since I was 13. And and then after a few years of being on my own, my grandparents sent me to a military boarding school, and it's called the Marine Military Academy, and that was like a sense of safety and basically rules and security and things I wasn't used to, that created a lot of value for me. And then being there, I had like a whole network of friends and all the crazy people that were locked up at military school with me, because it's kind of like a maximum security prison for kids. Um, so
Yeah, it's not like how the movies portrayed it back in the day. Like everybody in nice little blazers, everybody's polite, going to poetry clubs.
not at all. Nah, this is like street rules. Um, Everyone's pissed off. Everyone's looking for a way to clear off or like relieve a little stress. So, you know, if you're walking to class and someone kicks the back of your backpack, immediately you got to drop your backpack and handle the situation, because if you don't turn around and handle that one, then everyone's going to feel like they could kick your backpack, and so yeah, but very was a very positive experience for me. I had a drill instructor there. His name was First Sergeant Alvin Thomas. He was a boxing coach in the Marines, and was like kind of the first like real solid mentor that I had, like outside of my grandfather. So I really appreciated everything that he did to look out for me and kind of give me advice and mentorship while I was there. So from that experience, that's what led me into the Marines. Um, so after high school, I went to college for just like a couple months, and then after that, made the decision to go into the military. And It was the Iraq war was really kicking off. So, I was, basically, had some legal issues, so my grandfather kind of advised me towards, the Marines and getting out of jail free card, and that's kind of, uh, how it all came about. So,
Yeah, that's a story for a lot of people. Like, that
yeah,
was a real thing, enlist or go to jail.
right. Yeah, so for people that tell me, "Oh, well, thank you for your service, and I appreciate it," it's kind of like, well, nah, kind of, there's a little bit more to it wasn't like, I was holding my American flag and, going in and like, "Oh, I'm from Texas, I'm gonna serve the country," or anything like that. It wasn't like that. So, it was
Yeah,
a little different, but however you get there, and so, once I got
absolutely.
in, uh, I was, I didn't know anything really about besides military school. I didn't know much about how much different MOSs and jobs, basically make up your experience of and the experience that you have and also the experience that you leave with and the skills and everything. So when I got in, I was supposed to be artillery. Um, and because that's the only thing that my recruiters would give me because when I went in, I had a little bit of a rap sheet. So it actually took me like a year and a half to get approved, to get waivers and everything for all my stuff. So I basically just had to take whatever they would give me, which at the time was artillery. And then um, the way that it works for Marines is West Coast, you go to boot camp, and then after that, you go to School of Infantry. The School of Infantry has two sides to it. One is the Marine combat training, which people joke that it's like cooks and candlestick makers and basically all jobs go to that one, right? And then the other one is infantry focused jobs. Go to infantry school, Marine combat training. So I got put in Marine combat training and I was trying to be an infantry. And so, and it's kind of a joke because at the beginning of Marine combat training, they said, "Hey, we're really looking for infantry. If anybody wants to raise their hand and go over, you know." And so I had been doing that since boot camp, and then now I'm here doing it at infantry school or Marine combat training. And then next thing I know, I'm raising my hand for 14 days or so, and then now I'm about to graduate Marine combat training. So um, I don't know if it's like this in any I think there's like stress cards or like all kinds of stuff. I don't know if service by service, but in the Marines, there's this interesting tool that you have that's called refuse to train. And so
Mm.
I don't I've never used that before besides this one time, but, at a certain point before graduation, I sat on my rack on my bed, which you're not allowed to do in the Marines anyway, and I said, "I refuse to train." And then a bunch of, like, leadership ran around and was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I refuse." And then they came, and that's what got me into infantry, and so refused to train, got pulled from MCT right before graduation and getting sent to an artillery school, and went and got into infantry, and that kind of put me on the trajectory because I was on in infantry for a little under 4 years, and it was enough time for me to realize how much shit sucked and how much I didn't want to be there, and I wanted to level up. And thankfully there was no Marine Raiders or Marine Special Operations unit when I came in, but 2 years after being in the Marines, they started telling us that, "Hey, there's gonna be a new unit that's standing up and that you guys might have a chance to try out for it," whatever else, and then, um, when I got back from my first deployment, that's when, um, there was, there started to be a couple trailers on base where they had Marine Raiders or MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command recruiters in there that were basically screening guys to go to selection. And this was at the beginning. And so um, I had gotten into a lot of trouble my first couple years in, and it was all alcohol related incidents.
Mm. Yep.
So I had a
Story as old
situation.
as time.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, with my upbringing, I had an issue with authorities always, so, I had no authority, and then now I'm in the Marines, and I got these guys. that I feel like in any other situation wouldn't be yelling at me or treating me like that, but because we're in this special circumstance, that it gives them the permission to act a certain way or treat me a certain way. And so
This episode is brought to you by Pure Liberty Labs, quality supplements designed to elevate your health and performance. Check out their full line of quality supplements, whether you're looking for whey protein, pre workout, creatine, or a super greens drink. Pure Liberty Labs has you covered. Use my code SecurityHalt10 at checkout today.
that would be fine and I could handle that, but then whenever I would have drinks and I would basically sometimes black out, that I would start to try to find those individuals that I had the issues with during the day or, whatever it was. And so I got basically in trouble for for the same thing multiple times. And so at a certain point I woke up um one morning in Okinawa, and it was basically like I'd been on restriction for almost a year at that point. I'd already lost my rank all
Damn.
the way down. And then now I had just gotten in trouble the night before where I was about to lose all my rank again. And so I was basically starting back over as a private with like 2.5 years in. And that morning I woke up and everybody around me was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, how could you do that?" Um, and it was a wake up call for me that I can't control myself when I'm drinking, but I do really well when I'm not drinking. And like I'm really, technically and tactically proficient at my job. I work really hard. I put out a lot of effort. Like I'm always training, I'm always pushing myself to get better, but then I have this incident and it basically knocks me down for 6 months to a year, resets my rank and all that stuff. So at the time it was pretty challenging to deal with, but I basically built myself back from scratch. 2.5, 3 years in. And then within that year of everyone seeing like how hard I was working to turn myself around, I had an officer that basically was like, "Look, man, you're exceptional. I'm going to put you in for a force recon package."
Oof.
And at the time, I had a roommate that was in force recon. So I really was, admired everything that I saw him doing and getting to do, and then I really wanted that for myself too. So, but I didn't know anybody that was in Raider or in MARSOC at the time. So, I got a force recon or a recon contract initially, and then they changed it to Raiders. And my company commander basically said, "Hey, I have a roommate that I was with in college that's an officer in MARSOC, and told me everything about his job. He loves it, and I think that would be a better fit for you than recon. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to take your recon package and change it to you go into selection." So then I went to Iraq that deployment, and as soon as I got back from Iraq, I went to selection. So, and I think it worked out perfectly because when I was in Iraq, I saw so many cases of individuals that were liabilities to be around
Yeah.
in that environment, where you're having to like remind people to put their safety equipment or their protective equipment on when they're in danger. You're having to wake people up that are falling asleep when they're on watch, things like that, where it was like a big eye opener for me. But at the end of the day, like when I left Iraq, I was like, I'm going to make sure when I go to selection in all my training that I never get sent back here. Like, cause I want to go to something that's more vetted to where like all these people that fall asleep and that do these things and are liabilities and all that stuff that they won't make it into that. And so that's my opportunity. And, so then that's kind of like how I found like my purpose and motivation. My purpose was always make my grandparents proud and my family that kind of looked after me when I was growing up. But then also like, I never had a plan going into the Marines. I kind of took it 4 years at a time. And so getting into I don't think I would have stayed in past 4 years if I didn't get into Raiders, but getting into that was a game changer. And I just remember like, and I've I still feel like a new guy in a certain respects, but, like, I was like a new guy for felt like for years because
Yeah.
everyone at the unit was so experienced and had so many, not only combat tours, but they had all these schools where, they had, like, they had all these different tools that they brought to the team and value that they brought to the team, whether they were the JTAC or the sniper or the, dive supervisor, whatever it was. Not that like diving was a critical part of our mission set, but just like when you're a new guy coming onto a team and these guys have every single qualification, school, and everything, and you're like, man, I got I got selection and individual training course. Can I go to an armory school? That was my first school. I was going to join armor's
Oh
course,
yeah,
but
you're always gonna be, and I think this goes across the board for everybody. Like your first school is not gonna be something sexy. You're going to forklift operator course. You're going to hazmat. You're going to friggin' static line jump master. Like I rarely have met guys that went and showed up and they're, hey, you're going to free fall right off the bat. Because I remember it was hazmat for me. Shortly
yeah,
shortly after that, it was Stagline JM. But all that stuff, and I say it like looking back, I was hella bummed. I had friends that went straight to an ODA, went to a cool school or went straight on deployment. And I just remember my ops sergeant being real straight with me and just saying like, I'm gonna send you to everything that is absolutely hard, difficult, and sucks, and I'm gonna demand a lot from you. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be prepared when you get on your ODA. And I remember like, man, this sucks. Late nights studying all this stuff, late nights getting the opportunity to go to JM, Stackline JM on top of your normal everyday duties. But then when you finally get to a team, when you finally get up there, you're like, oh shit, I'm an asset. I'm valuable. But you don't get that perspective on the other side of the journey.
no, no, but if you're listening to this and like you're going into special operations, you're going into any military unit or anything really where you're new, it's an opportunity for you because whatever that first school or that first job that they assign you, like take that thing, like assume 100% accountability and responsibility over that job and treat it like your life depends on it and become the expert at everything that you can to know and do and perform with that job. And then that everything else will stem from that. Like that alone will start to drive you into other opportunities. So for me, like my first rotation at First Raider Battalion, I got there. Everybody was legends. I fell in as like an assistant armor was my first job, and then I just like took so much ownership over that and all the weapons and the serial numbers and how to track them and all of that to the point that um, they were like, hey, well, you're going to be in charge of the property book overseas because of how well you manage all of the weapons. And so from that, it's like it's not a fun job managing the property book
Oh
and all
yeah.
of the equipment, but as a new guy, it got me sent to Afghanistan in an advanced party. So I got to go about like a week and a half or something like that ahead of my team so that I could go sign for all of the equipment. But while I was there signing for the equipment, I got immersed in the culture like, for a week and a half. I got to meet all my Afghan local police. I got to build relationships with the commanders. I even got to put in a checkpoint within the first 10 days. So I was like, I got to get there and get my footing and get like a little bit of, traction and momentum and understanding and everything. Um, just because I had performed well at the serial number tracking job, which that's not my strong suit in life to track serial numbers, to
Same.
numbers, anything like that's not my strong suit. But you can bet your ass that like I treated that job like my life depended on it, and if nothing else, I didn't wanna fail, and the Marine Corps is like a shame culture, kinda like Army Rangers and some of these other special cultures within the thing, where it's all based on shame. So like
Yeah.
you mess up, you're gonna get highlighted. Everyone's gonna know about it till the end of time, and everyone's gonna get a great laugh out of every all the mistakes that you had. And then worst case scenario that you're gonna mess up and it's gonna get someone hurt or killed.
Yeah.
So it's like that's
Yeah.
kind of the game that you're playing. Like you're always all these movies where the guy's sliding and then shooting behind the wall and like doing all this stuff where all of his buddies are like this close to being killed. Never is that the actual thing. It always feels like you could fuck up at any time. You could gravely make a mistake. Um, and that like it doesn't feel like you're cool and you're moving and you're this like yeah sometimes you have good gear but like it always feels like, you know, um,
This episode of Security Halt is brought to you by Dr. Taylor Bosley and Precision Wellness Group. Let's be real. By now, a lot of New Year's resolutions have already fizzled out. Life gets busy, motivation drops, and health ends up on the back burner. But here's the truth. There's no better time to start than right now. Precision Wellness Group specializes in hormone optimization and hormone health, delivering personalized care and treatment right to your door. If you've been dealing with low energy, brain fog, poor sleep, or stalled performance, hormone imbalance may be the missing piece. Dr. Taylor Bosley and his team take a data-driven, individualized approach to help you get back to operating at your best. Security Halt listeners receive 25% off their initial consultation when they use Security Halt 25 at checkout. Click the link in the episode description to find out more and get started today.
I got to make sure I'm not missing something here. Like I got to make
Yep.
sure that I'm doing everything I can to be the best value to the guy to my left and the guy to my right. And like, I can't mess up and I gotta, so it kind of, that alone kind of keeps you in the game, at like 100%. But, yeah. So, I don't know like what you want to focus on with the military career, but I did want to focus on outside.
Yeah, dude. Let's take it. I mean, I'm just here for guardrails, my man. You just take us where you want to go on your journey. I think one of the best things we can do is like, look, I everybody knows what it's like to deploy and go down range and the effects of too much blast exposure, meeting the enemy on their home team when they have home team advantage. We've been talking about that. Everybody's seen it. There's tons of podcasts that cover that stuff. What we like to do is cover the fall downs, the obstacles, but also the how you were able to overcome them. And I think there's something to be said about the transition. We started this with wanting to highlight that, and I think it's perfect to before we talk about the rebuild, before we talk about the relaunch of Prime 2.0, take us through having to go through this entire career experiencing greatness and then having to transition. What was that like?
Well, it was a wake up call for me because I got blown up in 2012 and then I was medically retired in 2017. So I did a deployment after 2012 and I was still like trying to stay in the game a little bit, but I was my body and my brain and things started giving me a lot of trouble within a couple years. So um and I never got an MRI. I never got anything until like probably 2015, probably 2016 was the first time. So um once I got an MRI, then that kind of opened the can of worms and then they started doing all these tests on me and found out that I had so much damage in my right ear that I couldn't pass my dive physical anymore. So,
Mm,
if you can't pass your SOCOM screener or your dive physical, then you can't do the job, and, so I got called in to a meeting with the medical officer one morning, and he was like, "Hey," at that point, I was about to deploy to the Philippines and, like, do a deployment out of the embassy, and, so I was a little bit different kind of, uh, mission set, on the mostly intelligence type stuff, and, so but at that point, I was already on, like, pain meds and some different medications and stuff, so I was trying to get waivers to take some of the meds on deployment, and he found out about it, and so he brought me in, and he was like, "Hey, I know that you're trying to, like, pull strings to, like, do this and do this and do this and that, like, you think you're re-enlisting and that you're gonna go on this deployment, but and I want you to know that, like, what I'm seeing you do is, like, you're trying to hold on, right?"
Yep.
He's like, and I want you to understand that, like, I'm ripping you off of this door, right? You're trying to hold on, and I'm ripping you the fuck off, so when you walk out of this office, like, you need to start figuring out what you're gonna do with the rest of your life because you're gonna get medically separated or medically retired this year, and, like, you're never gonna deploy again, and your job here is done. So, he's like, "This afternoon, you're not going back to check in with your team, you're going up to the S3 shop, and you're gonna work in the training and operations thing until you get medically out." And so,
Fuck.
right there, I got pulled from
That's
my team.
harsh.
Yeah, I was operations chief, so, um, and I guess, like,
I too
what
know I too know how that feels.
yeah, yeah,
D
so I felt like I
does
had
not feel
purpose with
good.
that. Yeah, and my identity and everything, so I think it's, but the guys around me and my team kinda helped me to realize that, like, I needed to start focusing on what's next because like that first day that I got pulled, a lot of guys from my team came and found me and they're like, "No way, like we can't believe this is happening, right?" And like, "No, no, no." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't. I have no control. They're putting me up in the 3 shop, like blah blah blah." But then like a couple of days goes by and like I'm sitting at my desk in the 3 shop and like, you know, my guys from my team come by and they're like, "Oh, no, no, no," like, still engaged with me. And then like a week goes by, guys start walking by you know, like I'm like a cancer or something, right? Not really, not like a cancer,
No,
but
no, I know
they're walking by
exactly. Yeah.
they're walking by and looking at
Yeah.
me like I'm not like them, and that
Yep.
they're looking at me like I'm an admin guy or something, right?
Yeah. It
And so
sucks.
then
It does
like
not feel good.
yeah, so then I talked to some of my leadership and I was like, "Hey, what is the deal with this?" And they said, "Well, look, man, like we got to tell you straight. Like we don't even look at you like an operator anymore. We look at you like a liability, you know." And so, a medical liability. And, and so anyway, that hit me hard, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise because it was like, whatever I'm trying to hold on to here, which was everything, because I was so attached to it, my identity and, you know, uh, the whole like Shawshank Redemption part of it, like you get institutionalized when you work in the military and in the government, and when you get paid every 2 weeks, for your whole adult life, that now you're getting out and you're like, well, how am I going to get paid every 2 weeks? And how am I going to survive? And how am I going to, just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's going to all work, it just, and, and so, obviously I was like a fish out of water. I started freaking out, like trying to figure out what I was going to do. But, at that point I was I was having a lot of pain and my movement stuff wasn't great. And so I couldn't do a lot of the things on land that I could do before, but I could do a lot in the water. And I had been a water survival instructor, since 2008, 2009. So, I got into train, I ran a pool on Camp Pendleton before going into Raiders, with my partner, Don Tran, that I started Deep End Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League with.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had just thousands and thousands of reps training Marines in the pool. And then that translated to like when I was at Raiders, I would often get called because I still had my water survival instructor certification. Like I kept it, I kept it current my whole career. So I would often get pulled to the pool to run like, dive packages or like, zero to hero. These guys don't have much water confidence, but they're all going to dive school in 3 days. Can you hook them up? Um, and so I found a lot of different tools and things that really worked to build water confidence. And one of them was a game that we called underwater football at the time, that's now Underwater Torpedo League, but it's basically, 5 on 5, or at the time we would do like 8 on 8 or 10 on 10, like some crazy Royal Rumble in the pool where, the goal is to get one object to the other side of the pool with your team underwater. And if you get it in the bucket or the crate or whatever we used at the time, or we would have a kettlebell down there. You grab the kettlebell and you've got the torpedo, you score. And so we found that game, like it gamified the whole like underwater training to where everybody stopped thinking about how long they were holding their breath and what they were doing. They just wanted to score. And then at the end of those games, the confidence would be higher. And then, like I was on the first Marine Raider dive team where everyone got dive certified because dive is not in our pipeline. So it's like a special thing that if they want to send you based off of insert capability or because you earned it somehow, they'll get you a dive school seat. So it wasn't we were the first team that was fully dive capable, but before we were dive capable, we needed to send our whole team to get dive certified. So when we sent everybody, and the tool that we used to train them was underwater football, which is underwater torpedo league now. But we played this game over and over and over again with our team. We come back from the range, we go to the pool. We come back from some training, we go to the pool. We just built the confidence, and then everybody crushed dive school, and we came back and um, got to be the dive team. So yeah, those experiences that when I got out, I kind of started freaking out, and then I thought, well, where's my where's my experience, and like, where can I add value to people? And like, I love training people. I've always been writing training programs for like all my family members and friends and teammates and everybody that I've been around forever. So, uh, training is a no brainer, but I could take someone to the gym for weeks
Yeah.
or months before I get them a breakthrough, like a real breakthrough. Whereas I could take someone to the pool and within 30 minutes, I'm going to get them a breakthrough quick because we're taking away their life source. We're taking their air away and having them do certain things that's going to like show them who they are and like give them a little bit more feedback than what you would get in just a regular workout or something. So some people joke that you find God at the bottom of the pool, so, but you learn a lot
God or
about
the wizard.
yourself. Exactly, yeah.
But
But
dude,
either
like
way, you
one
learn a
thing,
lot about yourself,
yeah, you do, man. And I want to touch on the strength of yours because for a lot of guys out there, we now know like how prolific and how problematic TBIs are in the community. Guys are walking around, and because we don't talk about it, because it's not brought up to uh, our demographic, that you can get TBIs from training, from jump school, from static line jumps, free fall jumps, from blast exposure. All these things affect your brain. And when you get put out of the military, and especially from special operations, you can feel like you're losing the best version of yourself. When you were able to go back to the water, did you find yourself tapping into that part of you that was, the best version of you, the part that can overcome every obstacle? Was that something you leaned on for that reassurance and comfort that no matter what happens, Prime is still Prime?
Yeah, it's kind of, the, uh, God's timing or divine timing because as I was getting out, my son was, like, 3 years old, and we lived in a condo at the time, and we had, like, a little, 4-foot pool, 5-foot pool at our condo that I was taking him to, and this was while I was on my medical board. So I was hating my medical board because I went from being operational to now going to these medical appointments, sometimes 2 or 3 a day, where every single time I go in, the doctor doesn't believe that I was in combat or that these things happen. And it's like, dude, I'm not here to sell you. I'm not going to tell you what I went through. I'm not going to tell you anything because all my shit's in my medical record, and I'm not gonna play this game, you know. So I was miserable on my medical thing, and luckily I had a good like medical coordinator at my unit that was like helping me manage some of my stuff because I was basically
Yeah.
just at the point where I was like, I don't care. I'm not talking to you guys, like blah blah blah. So my only kind of refuge at that point, what during that time was taking my son to the pool after work or after my appointments. And so, being like working with him and training him in the water and doing all these little things like I had done, kind of that's what, like, also helped spark the idea with me and Don to start deep end and underwater torpedo league. So, um, yeah, and, there's a saying, "When in doubt, focus out." And so, if when I'm having a hard time and I can show up at the pool and leave all that stuff at my car, whatever I've got going on, and I can put all my focus on helping someone else or a group of people to break through barriers and level up and, like, learn something about themselves and become more confident and capable as a individuals and as a group, then that's kind of, something that's helped me stay in the game and, like, even when I was having a hard times, like, because the first couple years when I got out, a lot of people didn't know, but I was in full breakdown with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's the
So
thing that a lot of people don't realize with individuals that are strong, individuals that carry a lot of weight, especially when they start helping out other people, like, people tend to not check in. People tend not, "Oh, he's fine. He's always in a happy mood. He's always doing well." And I think that's very, problematic in our community, our warrior tribe and men specifically. Dudes carry a lot on their shoulders, and it's I always tell people that the friends next to you that are closest to you, that have the biggest smiles, that are always joking, check on those guys too. Check on your friends that are always sending the memes or always making you smile, because those are the guys that are also carrying a lot of weight and they don't show it. They're good at wearing the mask, man. Stories shape culture. They build trust. And when they're told the right way, they move people to action. That's what we do at Security Halt Media. We don't just produce content, we create authentic, impactful, and purpose driven storytelling for podcasters, nonprofits, brands, and leaders who are on a mission. For people who've lived real experiences and want their message to actually matter. From podcast production and video to strategic storytelling and distribution, we help you clarify your voice, elevate your brand, and connect with the audience you're trying to serve. If you have a story worth telling and a purpose behind it, Security Halt Media is here to help you tell it the right way. Click the link in the episode description to learn more today.
absolutely. I've seen that time and time again.
No, one of the things that, like, we can take directly from your journey is focusing on things that not only, like, you're good at that you can do, but things that you find joy in, things that you're truly like, you don't have to force it. It's really enjoyable for you. A lot of guys shy, like, it's human nature shy away from things that, you know, make you happy when you're struggling, when you're depressed, when you're going through anxiety. But you have to lean into it, man. You have to lean into the things that get you outside of the house, get you outside of your head. Otherwise, you're just gonna stay there, man. Like, in your journey, did you find yourself dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression through your transition?
Yeah, and for me, it was social anxiety and going out and being in groups and being around a bunch of, strangers or people, in different, settings and circumstances, and, um, so I've been, there's the systematic building block approach, crawl, walk, run, like, I've been, like, working and doing, like, when I got out, my psych at my unit was having me do homework assignments where I would go to Disneyland and, like, do things like that, and at the time, it was like, like, you know, felt like way too much, like an overload, but,
Yep.
you know, I just got back from SHOT Show in Vegas,
Oh,
where
nice.
I was there for, like, 7 days, doing hundreds of meetings, plus, like, thousands of people all the time, so,
Yep.
and I've also done jujitsu competitions over the last couple years, and, like, my biggest, like, purpose or reason of doing that is because for me to walk into, like, a auditorium full of people, it's, like, one of the like, I wouldn't say scariest environments, but for me, it's one of the most stressful environments for me to be in that, right, with all the noise and all the different people and
Yep.
all the random stuff and the social anxiety part of it and whatever else that the biggest thing is that if I go into that and then I let all my guard down by competing in the middle, that it's almost like that is, like, the biggest stress test that I could do for myself for social anxiety, or one of them that I found. So, I've intentionally put myself into these experiences that I can continue to grow and continue to lean in, and, like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but, like, my it the what I wanna do is go isolate and, like, be inside and, like, not come out of my cave, and when that that's not that's not sustainable. So, for me to be out and about and engaging with others, I gotta continuously keep myself, like, fit, and the way that I like, a big part of mine is the social anxiety, but, to answer your question, I had a lot of survivor's guilt. I had a lot of, like, "Well, why me? Why me?" And, like, doesn't even make sense that I survived this, and, like, scientifically, I shouldn't be here, and, like, whatever else, trying to find all these excuses and trying to, like, come up with a reason for everything. But at the end of the day, like, one of my good buddies told me that, and he's paralyzed from the chest down, so he got shot with me in Afghanistan. So, anytime he tells me something, I I'm I'm definitely listening. So he told me, "Do you think that any of the guys that got hurt or killed would feel any better about their situation knowing that you were more fucked up?"
Hmm.
No, I don't. I know that they don't, that they wouldn't. So
Yeah.
that was kind of a good wake up call for me, with the survivor's guilt stuff. And then even, like, so I think, more so is just, getting out of such a crazy experience, and then you're trying to assign meaning to everything, and you're
Yeah, dude,
out.
that's a great segue into something that a lot of us, have found great healing from. Trying to trying to find meaning in your suffering, um, can drive you mad. It can lead you down some really dark thoughts and, um, make it impossible to live. It can make it damn near impossible to quiet that voice in your head, and a lot of people have gotten a lot of relief and a lot of healing through plant medicine. In your journey when you were going through that, is that something that was brought to you, or how did you go about being able to heal and get over that?
Yes, the plant medicine is something that was brought to me, and basically, I was in breakdown. I was at a program, business school at USC. I had, one of my MBA teammates, was former teammates with Marcus Capone, um, and Marcus runs a organization called Veteran Solutions, um, but this was, like, 6 years ago, so, it might have even been before Vets, but he was into it, or maybe he just started it, but, um, so anyway, I got connected with Marcus, and then from Marcus, I got connected with my buddy Miles. Miles is a former Army Ranger, that's been in that space for a while, and basically, self-actuated, and, like,
Oh,
gone
yeah.
all over the world, and done all the work himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do
He's
you
a
know
trip,
Miles?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so if
I
Miles
didn't I
comes
didn't
into your
I didn't
life.
know that. Yeah. I didn't know
Yeah,
that that was, your guy because I did, 5-MeO DMT at my house, and he was my shaman. He's the one that
yeah,
guided me.
yeah, Miles is
Dude,
is amazing guy,
small
amazing soul.
friggin' world, man. Small friggin' world. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's one of my closest friends, but I actually just talked to him, like, 30 minutes before the call, but,
Yeah.
so, yeah, what I found, and with other people too, is that, you know, if you're in breakdown and then the medicine kinda comes into your life, like, for me, at first, I said no, like, 50 times, and then at a certain point, I had no options, and so I said yes, and then I went up and had, like, a life-changing experience off that first one, and, been a total game changer. So, I haven't drank alcohol or taken any medications since that first toad journey, and that was, 2018? So,
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, just saying that it's life changing doesn't really describe it, man. Like I I was given the opportunity to do it right before my daughter was born, and I have to tell you, man, the it was the single greatest thing I could have done before I met her, before I brought that little girl into this world, and it changes you completely. And I know there's still people out there don't believe it. I'm gonna tell you again, please experience it yourself. It's you see the world completely different, and it was such an amazing gift to be able to do that right before I transitioned to my next role in life, being a father. And as I will tell you, if you're holding on to anything, if you're dealing with pain, dealing with trauma, and you walk this road long enough, and you're still finding it difficult, and it's not a magic wand. You have to work, but I highly recommend trying this medicine. I highly recommend it, man. It's it's again, you gotta have to do work. You gotta have to have a follow on action plan after your experience, after you have this awakening. But I'm telling you, it is well worth it. It is something that I think every veteran from GWAT should go through at least once.
Yeah, agreed. And there's a phrase like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like
Yeah.
you can't force someone into doing this, and they've got to want positive change for themselves, and they've got to want that. But it's not just the toad venom. The toad venom and the 5-MeO is like pretty hardcore plant medicine in that like you're not there's no you're not gonna get around it. It's gonna take you where you need to go. And sometimes that can be a turbulent process to say the least. Um, but uh, sometimes the only way to the other side is straight through. And if in the military, we use all this green gear and these old radios and stuff like that. And, sometimes they worked and then sometimes they didn't work. And then if they didn't work, the miraculous way to get them to work again is a hard reset. Turn it all the way off, turn it all the way back on, then it should work. So what I've found is like sometimes we need a hard reset ourselves. And that when we get that hard reset, there's like realizations and information that can come in, because when you're maxed out and you feel like your hard drive is full, there's not a lot of information that can flow in, but once you get that reset and you clear some RAM.
This episode of Security Halt is brought to you by Dr. Mark Gordon and Millennium Health Store. If you've listened to this show, you know how seriously we take brain health, recovery, and long term performance, especially for veterans and high performers. Dr. Mark Gordon is one of the leading experts in neuroendocrinology and traumatic brain injury. He's just released his new book, Peptides for Health. Both the medical edition, Volume 1, and a consumer edition, Volume 1, are available right now. The book breaks down how peptide therapy supports brain health, hormonal balance, recovery, and resilience in a way that's practical and evidence-based. You can get 25% off the book by using code PTH25 at checkout, valid through March 15th. And for Dr. Gordon's proprietary health products, Security Halt listeners can receive 10% off if they use the code PHASE2P. Click the link in the episode description to find out more and visit Millennium Health Store today.
Then it's like, oh wow, well, these are some of the chess pieces that were right in front of me. I just couldn't see them because I couldn't breathe because my hard drive was full. Now I can have a little bit more space. I could start to like, do these things. But the thing with any plant medicine is that it kind of has three phases, and there's a pre-integration, a pre setup where it's like, you're analyzing, you're looking at your life, you're maybe doing a dieta or you're doing some type of a fast or some type of a cleanse to like clean out your system, not just like food and physical wise, but also mental wise. You're like starting to get on an information diet, you're letting, you stop
Yeah.
watching the news if that's bothering you, which it should, and all these things keep you in a loop, right? Your whole life. You're starting to like close those tabs and shit. And then you realize like, wow, well, maybe like I'm not crazy because this shit drives me crazy like everyone else, but um So, but yeah, stuck in a feedback loop or stuck in a negative feedback loop or stuck in a memory of something that happened. And when we keep going back to that same memory, I'll just speak from experience. When I did, it created a super highway to those to the worst memories that I had. And I could just go back there in a second. I had access points and I could just keep myself in a loop to where when I would be by myself, I'd just be crying and I'd be in that loop and I'd be depressed and all this shit. Well, the plant medicine helped me break out of it, but it's not just, after that, that's when the work starts, because then that's when you
Yep.
start integrating everything that happened into your life. And, you know, and that integration process can last years. Like I just said, 6 years ago, I went and did my first one. Now I'm like, or maybe even more than six, but not, I haven't drank, I haven't done any prescription meds like since before that. So that alone is a life changing thing for me and my family and everybody around me. So, um, but a couple of things that I really wanted to share because I've had some buddies, check out over the last couple of years, and that's been a huge wake up call every time that happens, and a lot of like kind of lessons learned. Even though I'm not like a detective, I can't pinpoint exactly why they did it, or what, but
Yeah.
because I was their friend, I have an understanding. And some of the things that I've learned is that when we get out of the military, like let's say you're in any special operations unit or whatever unit that you're in the military, and then you do like a career or most of a career in there, and then you're transitioning and you're going immediately into something else. And do not fall into the success trap that we have in our culture where it's like, oh, well, I'm going to be the first
Yeah.
Marine Raider that goes to Wall Street. So I'm going to go straight from Iraq and Afghanistan and that going to New York City, a place I've never lived before. I don't know how bad it is just alone to live there, much less to work 18 to 20-hour days on Wall Street. And it's like, but because I don't know how to quit and I told everyone that I'm going to do that, well, now I don't know how to get out
Yep.
because I committed. I've already gone to the school there. Like I built all these relationships. I'm in this internship, like blah 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 blah. That like I really couldn't say it enough, but just when you're getting out and you're starting your transition, measure twice, cut once. Actually, measure like 1,000 times, cut once. Meaning, before you go into that next thing, you might want to take a little bit time off and figure out who you really are, because before you came into the military, you lived somewhere else. You hung out with different types of people, and for the last X amount of years, you've been assigned to specific missions and you've been assigned to all the people that you've been around. So like, yeah, you adapted like humans do, and you adapted to being around all these people and doing this thing and living in this place. But now, where do you really want to live? Who do you really want to be around? What do you really want to do?
Yeah.
And find something that gives you purpose, that like something that you can serve others. And then if you can't find that in your job, you need to find that in something that's a community or something that you join as you're getting out. Like, we always talk about the 360-degree security that we want around us when we're on a mission or we're in somewhere, that's uncertain or, hostile territory. You always want 360-degree security. Well, when you get out, you want 300 you want to set that same 360-degree security and perimeter for yourself, but that is all of the people in your life. That's your family, your friends, your people that hold you accountable within your circle, your coaches, maybe your psych, if you do some type of therapy, your therapist, your this, like all those different people are all your security to help you kind of transition and navigate. But you got to find things that you can use your experience and give back to others. So you got to find people that you can mentor. You got to find people that you can give
Yep.
back to. You got to find veteran groups that you could support. And this is just my kind of outlook on it. You don't have to do anything, but um I really feel that, the people that, and just like I said, when in doubt, focus out. Like I got hard things that I'm dealing with even today. Like I even almost canceled this interview because I got a lot of crazy stuff going on, personally and professionally. And one of the things that kind of helps me navigate some of that is like focusing out on others, even like this morning when I'm driving up to my office because it's about 45-minute drive, I think who could I call this morning that would make a positive impact on their day, right? Well, I know one of my buddies is in a lot of pain, so I called him and, talked to him about that and some of the solutions that were rallying around for him to help him with, whatever's going on. But yeah, that if I didn't have those outlets and I didn't have those ways to serve, that I think I would feel a lot more kind of, stuck when I'm in when I'm in these things. Because even when I feel stuck, if I can help someone else feel like they're moving forward, then, like, I can start to, like, "Okay, I got this," right?
Yep.
So, yeah, and, so don't fall into the success trap. Fall into the happiness trap. Success is directly related to what makes you happy, So, um, like, I have this joke with my wife. Like, if you want to make candles and sell them at the farmers market, and that's what makes you happy, do that. Like, and that's my advice to veterans too. Like, whatever it is that makes you happy, like find a way for you to do that. Max out your benefits. Use your GI Bill. Uh, you know, um,
Vocational rehab. Go
Yes,
to
find a way to do all that. Like, dude, I got buddies like that have used their GI Bill like 3 or 4 times over, you know, and they always have a new way to either reload it with 3 more years or get some other paper from their congressman or whatever it is. Like, dude, max there's and I never knew about this stuff. I've learned it from some of my buddies that are so good at it. But, like, there's use all your benefits, max everything out to the point, but do not do not fall into the trap of with the VA because the VA is also a disability trap in a game
Yep.
to where if I go in and I say, "Hey, I don't want any help because I don't want any of the support that you provide," well, then guess what? My 180%, it goes down to 100 and then 90. Like, my percentage was just getting lowered because I was not participating in the VA for the last 7 years. So, all my stuff was getting lowered. Now, I've had that happen with other friends, and what they did was they went in and they were like, "Well, no, I've got, this stomach issue, or I've got this, or I've got that." Well, then they're like, "Okay, well, let's look at that," and then they start giving them medications for that issue. Well, then these guys start taking these medications that may or may not be for disability, and then now they end up with second and third order effects that they actually start losing their mind or their body starts breaking down on them or whatever. And like by the time they get to 100%, what was it worth? Was
Exactly.
it worth you losing your mind? Was it worth? And like, I'm speaking from experience. I signed my medical retirement and my CRSC. I signed it away. And at the right before COVID hit, I signed it off because they wanted to evaluate me to potentially lower me on my DOD disability, and I said, "Instead of evaluating me," I took it to the lawyers on Camp Pendleton, and I said, "If I sign this, does this mean that I'm out of the game forever? That I never have to go to another appointment?" And they said, "Yeah, that's exactly it." Boom, signed. So that's like what, 2,500 a month for the rest of my life I signed over because at that time, it was more of a risk for me to stay in there and keep going to those appointments because I didn't know what my response was gonna be if I kept getting dicked around like I felt, that I was it felt like I was gonna lose it in there, whether it was the Naval Hospital or the VA or one of these things that I was gonna show up and basically if you've ever seen that movie Falling Down,
Yes. Yes. Michael Douglas.
like on that. Yeah.
Yes, I know
So
exactly what you're talking about, dude, and it's
exactly.
yeah.
So, it's like, that's where I was, and
Yeah.
So people thought I was crazy because I signed that away.
Well,
But
I
it
mean,
was like,
it's
look,
taking ownership. It's being able to reclaim something, and that's where a lot of us like. And I know everybody's different, circumstances are different. You know, a lot of veterans out there living they paycheck to paycheck, putting food on the table, take care of their families. They don't have that ability. But if you do, it's 100% a peace of mind. Stop fucking with my life. Stop sending me. I mean, one of the most malicious things that I witness is like trying to like gaslight you into believing that you were sick. That happened to me. If it wasn't because I had another doctor that I was seeing for my blood work, and I had labs to prove that I wasn't in, I didn't need their medication, I would have been on friggin' on their medication for over 4 years now. It's
bro,
ridiculous. The fact that it's like, no, your labs are insane. They're you got to get on this medication right now. Meanwhile, the doctor that I have that's actually treating me gives me lab works and I do my blood work saying like, dude, you're normal. You're 100% on all your labs. Like the only thing we're going to bump up is your vitamin D because you're inside a fucking bat cave all day recording. Like so the reality is you need to understand that it is a system and not everybody's an honest player in that system. And if I've experienced it, if Prime's experienced it, be willing to advocate for yourself, be educated, be smart, second guess it, ask for reports, ask for lab pit printouts, read, actually look at what they're saying that you need, and be willing to look at getting a second recommendation from another doctor. Um,
yeah,
because it is a system, man.
yeah. And I saw Dr. Gordon was a guest on here, so you know,
Yeah.
look up Dr. Mark Gordon, have him run your blood and give you some have him analyze your stuff because having him manage my care for the last several years has been like a total game changer. So I don't have to rely on I don't have to rely on just whatever the doctor's telling me. I can ask. I have multiple kind of sources that I trust that are giving me that information. This is how bad it is. So I had to go to one appointment because they just put me on total and permanent. So I went to this appointment last year, and it was they did MRIs because I had to go to the ER. So they did some MRIs on me, and they came back with an appointment. When I went in, they said that I had spinal stenosis and that I needed to wear a neck brace. They were basically prescribing me a neck brace to wear everywhere I went, right? And they said that, like, all times, and they said that if, for example, I were to get into a car crash, that I would never be able to walk again, and I was like, "Okay, well, show me what you're looking at." They pulled up a Google image of spinal stenosis, right? They're showing me this, like, at the thing, and I was like, "That is not my imaging, dude. Pull up my image," right? Next to this one, and it's like, "No, you're out of your mind, bro. Well, you are out of your mind." And like, so that's the level that's just some of the experiences that I've had, but I've been put on like, antidepressants multiple times, had a bunch of serious like negative side effects to that. I've like, and every time I was going in, I was telling them, I'm not taking this anymore. This is doing X, Y, and Z. They would always try to convince me to get on another one.
Yep.
Always. "Oh, well,
Always.
we need to calm down your vagus nerve, and we need to blah, blah, blah." It's always some type of thing, but it's like, you know, if like, in your intuition that something is, like, destroying you and not working, stop taking it, which I would say is the case for most of it. Now, everyone at the VA isn't bad, I'm not saying that, but I would just say that, you know, there's been a lot of research done about how the VA operates and works, and that it's not necessarily set up for you to be healthy and well and, have quality of life
Nope.
forever, right? When you're telling these kids that
Absolutely.
are 22 years old getting out of the Marines that the first thing they need to do when they get back home is check in with the VA, get their meds, make sure all their disability's done, like that's priority number one. Well, what do you think these guys are going to end up being? They're going to end up on meds. They're going to end up victims of whatever bullshit that they went through and blah 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 blah. So, um,
Yep.
But
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like it's insane. Whereas the reality is, it's like, hey, make sure you're getting outside, getting fresh air, getting regular sunlight, getting exercise, get connected with friends and family, get plugged into the community, and get a reputable doctor. Like you said, the doctor that I was seeing who I had actually lab work from was Dr. Gordon. And he's a proud sponsor of this show. So if you want to connect with Dr. Gordon, go to the episode description right now, look at the links, head on over there and introduce yourself, because here's a awesome thing. It's not just me and Prime. There's tons of guys from our community. Some of the guests on this show are also, people that seek out Dr. Gordon and are his patients. That's a one thing that, like, guys are always so focused, hyper focused on testosterone, testosterone, testosterone. First thing I tell guys is, like, please go get lab work done. Be willing to get lab work done. Like, now more than ever, like, dude, another sponsor for the show, Precision Wellness Group. You're looking for somebody to optimize your hormones? Check them out. Regular doctors that can actually do the work, that can actually take you in, prescribe you the lab work to go get your blood work, and can tell you what's wrong. Because it's not just one thing, man. The VA wants to just prescribe medications and turn you into a person that's just going to constantly be a return customer. The reality is, healthcare and your wellness is made up of vastly different things that affect it. We tend to think that because we're dealing with anxiety and depression, it's all just, a one pill away and you'll be good. No, life's meant to be a contact sport. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be painful. You're supposed to work through it. You're supposed to have clarity in mind. You're supposed to do things like hang out with friends, go outside. If you need medication, absolutely. But I'm telling you, nothing good comes from being on medication for the rest of your life.
true.
That's one of the things that nobody's talking about. Like, we're just recently starting to talk more about, like, getting off medications, figure out a way to maybe take nutritional supplementation, figure out things that you can supplement through your diet. Dude, diet and exercise, one of the biggest things that can help impact our body and our wellness, and people are still neglecting it. Like, get out. Right now is the perfect time because we're doing the Security Halt 100 challenge. Join me. Get on board for 100 days. Optimize your life. We're not just talking about the body. We're talking about the mind, body, and spirit. 100-day challenge. Join me. Episodes, descriptions, full with all those links. But before we close out, Prime, I want to thank you not just for being here and sharing your story, but for everything you've been doing in the veteran space for a long time. Being willing to share your story, being willing to be vulnerable with the larger warrior tribe is one of the most impactful things we can all do. And I'm grateful for what you've done and what you continue to do. If people want to connect, where can they go?
Yeah, so my website is primehall.com. I have Instagram, LinkedIn are pretty much my two social medias that I'm on a lot. And then I obviously work with Deep End Fitness and Underwater Torpedo League. Community is a big part of medicine and, like, taking care of ourselves, as you were just saying. So make sure that you tap into a community. It doesn't have to be Deep End, but really anything. And then also, like, my hat, I'm here in my office with Atreus Development Group. So I've always been a gun enthusiast, but I also, like, we work with Atreus, which is kind of like open AI for guns. We have a lot of different technologies that we're bringing to market. And so for that, on the impact side, we do veteran range days. So if you're looking to hop on the range with us, in Vegas or Austin or any of these places that we do events, like, just hit me up, or hit up atreus.dev. Yeah. So basically, human performance, firearms, and community.
Yeah, hell yeah. Everything that's good and great in this American world.
Absolutely. And pushing freedom.
Dude,
Freedom.
yes,
2A rights,
absolutely, dude.
2A rights, and freedom. Remember, Atreus Development Group.
Yes. You got it,
Thanks for
man.
having me on too,
Dude,
bro.
dude, absolutely, bro. That's a perfect place to, say goodbye to everybody listening and everybody tuning in. Thank you for being here. Again, do me a favor. Episode's over. You know the spiel. Go to the episode description, click those links, send a friend request to Prime, and do me one more big favor. Click those links and support my sponsors, and especially Dr. Gordon. Head on over to his website and check him out. And if you're looking for a new doctor to help you on your journey, especially if you're dealing with TBI, contact him today. Trust me, you won't regret it. Thanks again for being here, brother, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.